For those who don't know me, my name is John. I wasn't here for the first week. I'm already getting emotional. Good Lord. Um, Whew, man, I was okay before I got here. For those who don't know me, I've been in church basically my whole life, and my parents were Oh gosh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm just already emotional. Excuse me. But my parents were pastors, and I had a really bad history. Not a great fatherly figure. Gosh, I was doing okay, but it's not that I'm nervous or anything. It's just the spirit that's just it's hitting me right now. But I'm very grateful for where I am right now. I could just say that right now. I didn't want this. I didn't want anything to do with like preaching or teaching. Um, I just saw a lot of like infirmities and just bad things that happened in the household when my parents were pastors. They weren't really there for me. They were just more focused in the ministry than anything else. So me growing up, I was just like, I don't want anything of that. I don't want anything close to that. And I knew ministry was called upon my life for the longest time. And it's been said a lot of times about being a pastor or being a pastoring people. And I'm just like, you could offer me literally $1 million to do that position. I wouldn't do it. That's how much I hated it. I didn't want anything close to do anything about preaching or teaching. Um, I'm here now by the grace of God, and I'm doing this because I love God and I'm very passionate for Him. Um, I don't just play drums and just do my thing. It's more than that. I love playing with Josh and I love being here, and I just thank you guys for having me here right now. I've gone through the whole mess of ministry and all that stuff, and I've became very disinterested in church for a while, but I'm here because I love God and I love people, and God's like, hey, you are the church, and you were called to love my people, and I was hurt by people. Hurt people, and um, and I'm here now, and that's not what I'm speaking about. That was my introduction. There we go. Now we're going in. Okay. I think I'm a little bit more calm now. The Holy Spirit was basically showing me what it looks like to be intentional. And it reminded me of a story in Luke, the lady with the issue of blood. And I really feel like this story is not really talked about a lot because it's just awkward. It's just like, especially from coming from a guy speaking about it. But there's so much significance in this story that you could go so deep into the story, just like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize, like, a lot of people are familiar with this story. It's just like, oh, I read this story before, I've heard this story before, but for me, it hit me different. And I really believe that through reading this devotional book or a simple devotion, God is wanting us to be intentional with Him. And we're going to read Luke chapter 8, verse 43. A woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding. She could find no cure. Coming up behind Jesus, she touched the fringe of his robe. Immediately, the bleeding had stopped. Jesus replied, "Who touched me?" Everyone denied it. And Peter said, "Master, the whole crowd is pressing up against you." But Jesus said, "Someone deliberately touched me, for I felt healing power go out of me." And I looked up the definition of what deliberately means. It means to be intentional in a careful and an unhurried way. So what got my attention was that there's so many people are pressing against Jesus or wanting something from Jesus, but one of them was actually intentional about it. And it made me think to myself, I'm just like, we could ask ourselves, like, how is it that we could go after Jesus and get wanting something from Jesus but not being intentional about it? And this lady was intentional about it. And this lady wrestled with restlessness for 12 years. And I was reading the book of Leviticus that it talks about the process that people had to go through if the lady was in her period or was bleeding or something like that. And anything that she touched or she touched became unclean. So the fact that her own bed was considered unclean for 12 years, and here we go, getting emotional again. She was restless for 12 years. And just one touch, this took one touch, and she found rest through Jesus. And this is why I don't preach, because I cry a lot. Thank you. I looked it up, what it meant about the fringe, the corner of his robe, and basically identity was found in the corner of a person's robe. It was the fringes of the person's robe. It identified who the person was. And what this lady did was trying to align herself to grab the hold of the identity of Jesus. And that shook me. I was just like, holy cow, like this is crazy. There's so much into the story that I didn't realize, that if only we just had one touch, we just go after his identity, things would be changed in our lives. We'll find rest. So this lady took the uncommon route. She went for healing everywhere else, but didn't find it. I need a napkin. Sorry. I'm getting a runny nose now. All right. You guys are going to do great. She took the common route, and she was getting no healing anywhere else. But she took an uncommon route. She went against who she was. She had to deny who she was and to go touch Jesus and to find that she found healing and rest in Jesus. And that was a question that was actually in the book. What if we take uncommon paths to produce uncommon results? And I really believe that we all could talk about reading the Bible and doing simple devotion. It's a very common thing, but it's very uncommon for us to say yes. I know a lot of us said, like we said yes, we gave our hearts to Jesus and stuff like that, but it's not just inviting Jesus into our lives. It's about our lives becoming Jesus' life. And so I battled with this for the longest time. I had a lot of things I had planned for my life, and I had a career, not careers, but I would say like I wanted to pursue entrepreneurship and to get ahead in life and just to become a very successful person. And I found that route was better than being a Christian. I was just like, I could be a Christian or a Christian entrepreneur Christian, but I was just like, I was basically just running away from the call that God had called upon me, and I didn't want it. And I held back from my yes for the longest time because I knew things were going to change in my life. I knew things were going to get taken away, and I was afraid of my yes because I knew it took a lot of costs and a lot of sacrifices. I was just like, I gave basically, I'm going to say the word here, a half blank yes. So you already know, if you know that phrase. I was just like, I had one foot in and one foot out, but I can say things have changed in my life drastically when I did give my yes to Jesus. I didn't know how that was going to happen. I just like, well, if I gave my yes to Jesus, I don't understand how it's going to change for me in my life. But I can say a lot of things happen. There was a refining process. There was moments and seasons in the wilderness that I didn't want for the longest time. I was like, I know it's going to hurt, and I've been through a lot of hurt already. I was like, why would you take me back into hurt again? Because the thing is, I ran away from the church. I didn't want nothing to do with the church. I'm like, why, God, why would you want to bring me back to the place I was hurt in the first place? And he said, there's a lot of hurt people out there that I want you to reach out to. And I really believe that my ministry is to call the prodigal sons back into the household. And yeah, there's people who are lost and need to be found. And that's why we're here, to love people and to call them back to the Father. But I kind of just went way off my notes. I just wanted to share my heart. And yeah,